Chicago just revolted against Mayor Brandon Johnson after he increased the property taxes by 100%. 100%. And this move is so unpopular that even the woke left has turned on Brandon Johnson, and they're now disrupting and shutting down his events. I'm going to show you guys that in this video. And finally, in light of Mayor Brandon Johnson's hyperfixation on bankrupting Chicago to pay for illegal aliens, he's conjured up some brilliant ideas to resolve the city's billion-dollar deficit. And his ideas are so disastrously stupid and inconceivable, even J.B. Pritzker was against them. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, but we have to start with Mayor Brandon Johnson getting protested and shut down on his own home turf, a conference about racism.
Mayor Brandon Johnson.
Mayor Brandon Johnson. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Let the mayor speak. 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 Let the mayor speak.
Brandon Johnson is the most notorious race-hustling politician in America. He has a talent for furthering racial division, for comparing everything to slavery, for blaming all of Chicago's problems on white supremacy, even though it's run by a black man. And his abysmal 6% approval rating was propped up by appealing to the plights of people who are perpetual victims. So a conference about racism and white supremacy is where Brandon Johnson would usually be getting showered with praise and applause. But now it's no longer fun and games when your property taxes just doubled. And would you guess who got hit the hardest by "I'm a proud black man, black supremacist, stand in solidarity with black people, Brandon Johnson's tax increase policy"? You guessed it. Black people. Take a look.
Well, people have gathered here tonight at Harmony Community Church here in Lawndale as they're trying to light the way to fairness with this bonfire and discussion tonight. Many homeowners across Chicago receiving a hefty property tax increase in the mail, and they're all wondering where that money is going.
How can you maintain your home if your taxes are constantly going up?
Homeowners in Lawndale are searching for answers together tonight about their property tax hikes. Community leaders partnered with the Lawndale Christian Development Corporation to host this bonfire, allowing neighbors to discuss their options. The group discussed a number of solutions for the issue, including an effort to propose new policy, which would be modeled after California's Prop 13. That would limit property taxes to 1% of assessed value, with annual increases capped at 2%. Homeowners are also frustrated because they feel like they're not seeing the tax hikes lead to notable investment in their neighborhoods.
There's been a divestment in this community for the most part, but it seems like now that people have found an interest in reclaiming the neighborhood, now it's like we're being taxed for prosperity.
So here's the problem all socialist politicians run into, even black socialists like Brandon Johnson. You take out a whole bunch of debt to spend money you don't have. In this case, it's on infinite free benefits for illegal aliens, and then you say, it's okay, I'll pay for all of this by taxing the rich, obviously. And when those proposals don't pass city council or state government because they would have disastrous economic consequences, the shortfall and the burden always falls on the working class. So while Brandon Johnson pretends to stand for black people, wants to see more black excellence, wants to see more black home ownership, wants to see economic revitalization in black communities, wants black people to keep their homes and not be subject to gentrification, what does he do to pay for his unwavering commitment to illegal foreigners? Doubles the property tax burden on black people. Listen to this lady at a recent Chicago City Council meeting give Brandon Johnson the most vicious tongue lashing you have ever heard.
I want you to stand up with us and do a press conference with us. When you gonna do it, black man, Brandon Johnson, since you're fighting white supremacy? All these black people said they reached out to you. That's a black man right there who want to get his kid, black man, since you so family oriented. Where can we get a press conference with you and these black aldermen? Can we get y'all to stand up with us? Because you're not really about that life, black man. See, it ain't about that. See, you a communist, you foreigners, and you a foreigner. And see, you communists and socialists think that we're going to allow you to come in Chicago, where the true citizens born and raised here, and we're going to let a foreigner from Elgin come in and destroy our city? You thought that, right? It was fun. It was fun and games in the beginning. You thought that was going to happen, black man, but you got black women that's going to make sure that it don't. And the white man that's so racist, we got the white man that's racist, the ones helping us. So all this racial and division talk, black man, do something that's really destroying our community. Stand with us with the crime, black man. With the violence going on in our community, black man, all the abandoned buildings, the money that y'all stole that never made it to our communities, black man. Stand with us with that, black man. This is what you can do. Get rid of those illegals that you spent all that money on and put those resources in our community.
This is why I find it so incredibly intellectually dishonest when people like to claim that black conservatives like myself are selling out black people. People like me preach that black people can achieve anything in this country and our skin color is not a barrier. I preach being refused to be seen by pretentious white virtue signaling liberals as second class, as being too dumb to obtain an ID. I preach accountability and personal responsibility for your actions. I preach prioritizing intelligence, respectability, dignity over embracing destructive gang culture. I advocate for black people being able to exceed and thrive on their own merits and not needing an infantilized, offensive system that lowers the bar for us because of our skin color. I preach embracing the opportunities afforded to us in the greatest country on earth that our ancestors lost their lives fighting for us to have access to. And then you got fake black solidarity, victim mindset perpetuating black Democrats like Mayor Brandon Johnson, who's basically on his hands and knees pushing the ideological and cultural agenda of elite white liberals. He's so committed to illegal aliens receiving infinite free welfare that he's putting the obligation squarely on the shoulders of the black residents in his city who are struggling to get by. Today, he just gave a speech in Chicago for Trans Day of Visibility. How does mass illegal migration and transgenderism benefit the black community? He is unwillingly conscripting black people into this intersectional army to fight against the system. But black people since 1965 have been part of the system. But that's why he wants them to adopt the victim mindset. The more he wants them to believe that there's this serious cultural and social justice fight that they need to be a part of. He wants black people to remain mentally enslaved on the Democrat plantation and not think that they're equal citizens of this country. So black people will come and fight cultural battles that are specifically against their best interest by emotionally blackmailing them and saying, well, if you don't stand up for the illegal aliens, if you don't stand up for the transgenders, well, they're going to come for you next. He doesn't want black people to realize that the fight is over, that they won, because then they would profusely reject all of the bullshit the Democrat Party puts forward. So while black residents are having their property tax bills doubled, while simultaneously closing schools in black neighborhoods, all while black children can't read or write proficiently, guess what the Chicago Teachers Union is doing with all of this tax money? Spending $8 million on luxury trips. Take a look.
Terrell, the new report from the Office of Inspector General points to what it calls questionable excessive spending on overnight trips for CPS employees, including staff excursions to places like Egypt, Finland, and South Africa. This morning, the oversight body Watchdog urging Chicago Public Schools to reform its travel policies after the Office of Inspector General found CPS travel expenditures surged to $7.7 million last year. That's more than double what the district spent 5 years prior before the pandemic. The report states CPS staffers repeatedly exceeded spending limits and expensed trips and activities without approval, including a professional development conference in Las Vegas that more than 600 employees attended between 2022 and 2024, spending more than $1.5 million in district dollars. Nearly 90% of attendees stayed in hotels exceeding CPS spending limits. The watchdog group also found about 40% of all conference attendees traveled without receiving approval. This all while CPS faced a $734 million deficit this year.
So while the Chicago Teachers Union is running at a $734 million deficit, they spent almost $8 million on luxury trips. How would they ever get away with this, you might ask? Well, because Brandon Johnson used to be a member of the Chicago Teachers Union. All of this while they demand more money for Chicago public schools, which are already some of the most funded per pupil schools in America. Brandon Johnson is the true house N-word, not people like me or other black conservatives. This guy is selling out the black community, their access to home ownership, and their children's future at the behest of an elite, coastal, white, extremely progressive agenda. But Brandon Johnson, being the good socialist that he is, came up with a few ideas for how to raise some revenue to deal with this budget shortfall. What were his ideas? Taxing social media companies 50 cents per user, increasing the cloud tax. So any business in Chicago that uses software, well, now every piece of software you use in your business is more expensive because Brandon Johnson wants to give illegals free healthcare, obviously. And then finally, and by far the most ridiculous, every business in Chicago that employs more than 100 people will now have to pay a new tax of $21 per employee per month. This idea was so bad that even bumbling idiot Governor of Illinois J.B. Pritzker said he was not going to support it. Watch.
I am absolutely foursquare opposed to a head tax for the city of Chicago. It penalizes the very thing that we want, which is we want more employment in the city of Chicago. And it makes it very hard to attract companies from outside of Chicago to come into Chicago and harder for companies that are in Chicago to stay.
J.B. Pritzker is a legend when it comes to implementing new ideas on how to create new taxes out of thin air and take more of people's money. Hell, this man would charge a breathing tax if he could. And when he says that your tax plan is bad, you have entered a realm of stupidity that is only reserved for a select few. Not only would it force major companies that have, let's say, 5,000 employees to really look at, do they need 5,000 employees or could they get away with 3,500? And now 1,500 people have lost their job. But it would also disincentivize any small business from ever growing past 99 employees. There are some policies that are dumb. There are some policies that are dangerous. And then there are policies that are dumb and dangerous. This proposed tax policy would obliterate economic activity in Chicago. Who thinks of a policy that punishes businesses for creating jobs? But would you be surprised that all of this stupidity can be avoided? Brandon Johnson is just choosing not to. The city of Chicago paid a consulting agency $3 million to figure out how the city could streamline efficiencies and cut costs. And in their report, they found $1.4 billion of savings. That would take the city from a $1 billion deficit to a $400 million surplus without having to institute any of these ridiculous tax increases. And what did Mayor Johnson decide to do? Of course, he rejected all of their ideas. Take a look.
City council members are giving the mayor's budget team a grilling on an outside report that the city spent $3 million on to come in and make recommendations on how to save money out of this massive $16.7 billion budget. So Ernst & Young, they did the report. They came up with as much as $1.4 billion in savings. And these alders want to know, well, how come the mayor isn't incorporating the majority of this into his budget that attempts to close a $1.15 billion gap? Now, the mayor said that's just one of many considerations that he has to take in.
I just hope that they spend the same amount of time in this EY report, also looking at how corporate interests are continuing to get away with without having to pay their fair share in taxes. I think all of it requires our attention at this time.
So this report done by Ernst & Young, thus the slang EY, it recommends things like consolidating city real estate, some of the fleet of city vehicles, consolidating the way the city doles out contracts, and then $100 million in savings by having city employees pay more toward their health coverage. But alders are complaining that only about 80 million of these ideas and recommendations was included in the mayor's budget proposal.
So he admitted what his intentions are, just like any other communist. It's not about cutting costs. It's not about being efficient or effective. It's not about getting the most value for your dollar. It's just about the city wanting more of your money because they think they're entitled to it. It's about taking money from the pockets of hardworking Chicagoans and putting them into Mayor Brandon Johnson's pocket. He believes the people work for the government and he's the head of the government, so he's basically king. This is the consistent behavior you see from leftist politicians. The mayor of Seattle is a socialist. The mayor of Chicago is a socialist. The mayor of New York is a socialist. And all their goals are the same: to suck all of the lifeblood out of the city, out of the businesses, out of the citizens, and concentrate it all in City Hall, increasing and expanding their power. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you is just a bonus clip that is going to make you roll out of your chair laughing. Here's Brandon Johnson getting confronted about his historically low approval rating, and please just listen to his answer.
Recent polls show 76% of those surveyed say Chicago would be better off with a different mayor. How do you convince them otherwise?
Well, look, the people of Chicago elected me to invest in people. In every single category as it relates to investments, they're up. I actually am humbled that the people of Chicago believe in my administration enough to have greater expectations than any other administration. That's what leadership looks like, and I'm humbled to do it.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that there's greater expectations? I don't know where I hear that. Because,
yeah.
and then the feedback instead is that the polling is poor. So I don't know how you interpret it that way.
Well, because maybe because I'm a middle child. Maybe it's because I'm a Bears fan. By the way, the Bears are undefeated in 2025, so we're off to a great start.
Have anything
Here's
to do
what I'm
with
saying, though. Look, the people of Chicago voted for me to invest in them, and that's exactly what we've done, and I'm going to continue to do that.
The people of Chicago voted for me to let crime skyrocket, steal all their money, and spend it on my radically progressive passion projects. The man is such a narcissist. The race grifting undertone of they've set their expectations higher for me than any other administration because I'm a black man. People like Brandon Johnson do an absolute disservice to black politicians. People like Brandon Johnson do an absolute disservice to black people. He's the mayor of the third largest city in America, yet he's still a victim. He's incompetent, he's radical, he's divisive, he hates America, despite always talking about how his ancestors were slaves. So instead of appreciating the toils of our ancestors who helped build this country as slaves, and then the ancestors who came after them that fought vociferously for our place within the society, Brandon Johnson wants to spite them, make all their suffering be in vain. Brandon Johnson wants to give it all away to people who illegally broke into this country and put the entire financial burden on other black people. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Turn on those notification bells so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.